Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk. I hope everybody is doing well and has had a fantastic weekend thus far. We are already, I'm straightening my chair up, we are already ridiculously at the very end of September. So, my gosh, this year has flown by. It's been ridiculous how quickly this year has gone by. But I just want to say at the start of this show, thank you to all of you, every single one of you, for all of your support, all of your comments, all of your questions, and all of your fun that you have brought to Sunday Night Live and also Songwriting Simplified shows throughout the course of this year so far. You guys have been absolutely epic and amazing, and I could not do this show or the Wednesday Songwriting Simplified show without you guys, and certainly all the other content that I've put up over the course of this year as well. I really appreciate all of your likes, all of your comments, and all of that, and your subscriptions as well, because we are marching inexorably towards 6,000 subscribers, which I hope we get to before Christmas. That would be awesome if we get there before Christmas. We've got some way to go. We've got maybe about 550 maybe or so to go. Yeah, maths is not my strong point. But yeah, we've got a wee while before we get there, but hopefully we'll get there before Christmas. If not, certainly early next year we'll get to 6,000, and then the next target after that is gonna be the next big target that I'm aiming for is 10,000 subscribers to get, to those 5 figures, which would be amazing if I could get there pretty quickly as well. So with all of that said, welcome everybody. And it's going to be a fun show tonight, I think. We already have a really, really cool question from Rock Tees down in New Zealand. So we will start with him, but as you can see from his question, he started his question with at Jonny Lipsham Studios. So if you want to ask a question, please, first of all, subscribe if you're not subscribed yet, because the chat is in subscriber mode only. So if you would like to ask me a question about Studio One, recording, mixing, mastering, and just basic anything to do with using Studio One, then if you want to do that, then please do start the question with at Jonny Lipsham Studios. What that does is that highlights my name in red, and that means it's easier for me to pick it out from the conversation that's taking place in the chat. I love you guys talking to each other and getting to know each other. It's great. I'm glad you do that. And for the most part, you guys are all friends, which is amazing. I love the fact that we have a bunch of people here who are from all over the world, different parts of the United States, the UK, different parts of the world, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, the Philippines. We got people everywhere, all over the world, and you guys all know each other and have become friends through, hopefully through this channel, and also through the one thing that kind of binds us all together, which is Personas and Personas products. Yeah, please do start with that, with the at Jonny Lipsham Studios. Help me a lot. Make it easier for me to not miss your question, which I don't want to do. So, Sean Aaron was first in the door today. Well done to you, my friend. You were super duper early. Followed round about an hour later by Tony Stringer, and then Billy Morgan, who says, won't be here. Youngest son getting hitched. Will launch Zoom when I get home. Have a good one. God bless you and your family. Billy, God bless you and your family on this very special day. I hope your son has a wonderful wedding. And, it is the beginning of a wonderful journey. So I hope that everything goes well and everything goes smoothly, and that you guys have a fantastic, wonderful day. And, don't worry about us. Don't worry about Zooms or anything like that. The most important thing is you and your family. So you go focus on those. Now, for those of you that are wondering why I'm snuffling a lot, yes, I have yet another cold. And this one is a bugger, actually. This one has hit me hard. Ugh, excuse me. This one has really hit me hard. I've been super duper congested, and I've had like streaming eyes, the works. It's been very hard to work, but I've managed to get through it somehow. So, Yeah, so I'm kind of struggling quite a bit. I pretty much slept from 11 o'clock last night until 11:30 this morning. So and I never sleep more than 5. Yeah, 5 hours is probably the most I ever sleep. 6 hours is a lie-in. That's a sleep-in for me. Um, but uh, but that was 12 hours last night. So yeah, this one has hit me pretty hard. So please excuse the snorts and snuffles, and there may be sneezes. In fact, there may be multiple. If I have one, you can guarantee there are going to be many. And if there are, I apologize. So, who else is here? We got Christina, who is here as well, over in Denmark. And like I said, we got Rock T's here as well. We got Jay Feliciano. We got Ron Figura here as well. We got Stephen Wilson. We got Neil Thompson. Who else do we have? Oh, the chat just jumped quite a lot there. We got Chris Manragna. We got Dwayne as well. We got Paul Morgan. And we got John Hathaway. And we've got Keith from Radio Top Trumpet. We've got Dave from Aurora's Boring Alice. And I think I got down to the bottom. I'm pretty sure I have. Anyway, it won't scroll down any further. So I pretty much believe I have. But yes, we got a good number of people here, which is fantastic. And I'm just going to also check my emails, basically just to see if anyone has sent me a question that way, which you have not, and that's fine. All right, so let's get to questions. We'll start with Rock Tees because it is a good question. And he says, "Hi there, wondering if you could shed some light on how or even why I would use the insert silence function from the edit menu. Thanks as always." That's a great question. In actual fact, the insert silence is really powerful. I'll give you a couple of examples. Let's say you've done your song and you've finished recording. You've finished all the production on it. You really like it, but you're listening through it and you think to yourself, you know what? It could really do with a little, drum fill pickup into the intro. Just like a little, 1-bar drum fill before you start the song. Trouble is, I've already done my song. So how am I going to do that? Well, one way you could do it is you could just do Control A or Command A and just shift everything along 1 bar. That would do the same job. It would. But you could also use the insert silence function, which would do the job for you just in 1 click, or 2 actually, because the dialog box opens and you need to enter the values and then you click OK and it shifts however many along. So that's one example. Let's do another one before I show you how it works. So another example would be, let's say you're working on your arrangement and you decide that your guitar solo, if you're a guitar player, let's say you decide that your guitar solo is actually too short. It's only 8 bars long and you would like it to be another 8 bars long. Well, if you're using the arranger track, that's fairly straightforward. You could just select the arranger block and hit D and that would duplicate that arranger block. Job done. And then you just delete the duplicated electric guitar part because you don't want to do the same guitar solo twice. You just want to allow more time. So you want to give your guitar player some more time. So you could certainly do that. Or you could use that insert silence function. You just put the cursor where you want it. And then you use that insert silence function and you say, I want 8 bars of silence. And that will shift everything that is to the right of the cursor. It'll shift all of those things along by 8 bars. And then you can flesh out your arrangement for those 8 bars. And then you could, again, if you're using the arranger track, you can just extend that arranger block to cover the guitar solo so that you've got 1 block instead of 2 blocks for the guitar solo. Because, who knows? Maybe you decide you want to use that same section again for the outro of your song with a fade out. But you don't have to move 2 sets of blocks. You just want to move 1. So you could, that would be a use case for using both the arranger track and the insert silence. So insert silence is really useful for that kind of thing. I mean, there are a lot of other applications, but let's dive in and I'll show you how this works. So if I open up Studio One here, and we'll get the camera on, there we go. So this is the intro music, and I'm going to close the mixer. Watch what happens when I do this, because now we have all of our tracks. And as you can see, it's only 25 bars long. This was deliberately written to be an intro. This is not like part of a song that I already had. I actually created this to be the intro music for Sunday Night Live. So it's deliberately written this short. So what we have is... So it's pretty straightforward. But let's say what we want to do is we want to have a little drum pickup before we start with everything coming in. So with the cursor set at bar 1, beat 1, we go to edit and we go to insert silence. Or you can do Control Alt and I, or Command Option I if you're on a Mac. And we'll do this, and we'll go start at bar 1, end at bar 2. Doink. Now everything has moved along. So if I zoom in here, we can see now, we've got a whole bar before it starts. And let's say what I want to do is I want to find a little drum fill from the loops library that is going to fit that. So let's go and see if we can find something that's jazz orientated. Let's go loops. Let's go see. I think I got it from here. So if we go loops. I'm going to scroll down, see if I can find something.
1, 2, 1.
Or we could try this one.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1.
I actually quite like this one. So let's go and grab this and drop this here. Now you can see it's already too long. That's fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to crossfade that. And then let's see what we get.
1, 2, 1.
That's actually pretty good. I actually like that.
1, 2, 1.
Is it loud enough, do we think?
1, 2, 1.
Okay, let's just check we've got time stretch on here, which we do. Perfect, so that should work out just fine.
1, 2, 1.
So it's subtle, but it gives this a nice little kick into the main groove. Also, you can hear that somebody is counting it off in the background. So this now has a new sense of kind of realism. Sounds like we're actually a proper band playing together.
1, 2, 1.
So I like that, and I think the ride cymbal sounds the same as well.
2, 1.
Yeah, so we're good. So we can now close that, and then if we like this, like I actually do, I'm just going to hit save on that. So now our new song is that little bit longer. So what I have to do is I have to compensate for that. So let's move that along. And notice how our start and end flags have moved along a bar as well, because the end flag was at bar 25. The end flag is now at bar 26, and I just moved the loop range, and we're good. So I can also do my zoom to loop. And we're good. All right. So hopefully that helps resolve that issue for you. This well, it's not really an issue, but this is what insert silence is really, really useful for. If you want to insert a little break in your piece of music, or you want to extend a section. So another example of this would be, let's say you want a drum solo, but you've already done your arrangement. You're already happy with your arrangement, but you decide, hey, let's just put a 4-bar drum break before we go into that last chorus. No problem. And by the way, your drummer will be very happy if you did that. Speaking as a drummer, definitely. And that's where your insert silence is really, really helpful, because you can just stick that there, and then you can enter the values that you need for the insert silence, which would be 4 bars. Done. Everything will shift across 4 bars, and then you just ask your drummer to play, and you can do punch in, punch out. You can even use the auto punch if you want to make sure that it all fits nice, neatly into your 4 bars, and then you're good. And it means that everything is moving, and you're not having to range select or do Control A and then move everything and end up kind of not moving things quite where you want them to be. This just literally just moves everything all at once by the amount that you want. So if you only want 1 beat of silence, you can put that in there. Another example of using insert silence would be if you're working to picture, and you know that in order for you to sync your music to a particular event that is happening on screen, you need to insert something that is really short, like a short, I don't know, a short measure of like 3/16 or something like that. You can do that. I mean, you can change the time signature, but the first thing you would want to do is insert the silence. And then when you've created that little insert silence, then you can change the time signature at the start, time signature at the end. So if you're just like having the 1 bar of 3/16 and then you're back to 4/4, you can do that. And that means that everything will shift as you need it to fit with what is happening on screen. So insert silence is very, very useful, very, very powerful in a whole different bunch of scenarios in which you might need to use it. Working to picture, or working to, working to picture is probably the better example, actually, of being able to make your sound design or your music exactly hit a certain frame that is on screen at an exact second or millisecond or nanosecond point. So you can make sure that everything lines up. So you can do insert silence by bars, or you can do insert silence by seconds. It depends upon what you have the main time ruler set to. So if you're wanting to insert seconds rather than bars and beats, change that time ruler, your main time ruler, to seconds, and then you can also set up the secondary time ruler to bars and beats if you need that for a more musical frame of reference, as well as a time-based frame of reference. And then when you do the insert silence, it will be in seconds rather than bars and beats. And then you can insert exactly how much silence you need for lining up your sound or your music to a particular event that happens on screen in picture, so that you can make sure everything is exactly in sync to create the particular effect that your music needs to support what is happening on screen. So that's really another example of where insert silence is going to be very, very useful. Great question. Great question. I really like that. And I'm just going through chat to see what we have here. Yeah, Chris from Rackner is here. He says, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you, my friend. I am glad you are here. Let's see. Chris says to Rock Tees, your submission is awesome. Great work. Yeah, I haven't listened to any of the submissions for the Halloween Songwriting Challenge yet, and I won't until we actually start. Or rather, we have already started, but until we actually start choosing who the winner is going to be. So I'm not going to listen to anything until the closing date has elapsed and you guys have submitted all of your entries. Once all the entries are in and the closing date has elapsed, then Rich and I will spend some time, maybe even a couple of days. It kind of depends upon how many entries we have. We will spend some time going through all of the entries. And I am not going to listen to a single one of them until we get to that point. So please, folks, don't tell me about any of the entries because I don't want to hear about it. Let's see. John Cage would have loved that feature. Yes, he would have gone for 4.5 minutes worth of inserting silence. That is definitely true. Let's see. What else do we have? No, I'm David, that's funny, but I'm not Flemish. No, I'm Scottish. Damn it. I'm only Flemish when I'm coughing up my guts. Keith from Radio Talk Trumpet, he says, putting fake count-offs in your music is a great way to fool people into thinking it's recorded off the floor. Yeah, that's definitely true. And there are some really good samples of those as well. So you can just go and grab those. Carl says, I insert a full measure if the song starts with some pickup notes. Yes, I absolutely do that as well. Even if the pickup is only like 3 beats long, I always do a whole bar as well. Definitely. Some tunes I will count and cues on a separate track like a click, but cueing where the wacky parts start. Yeah, I know a lot of people that do that as well. They create what they call a cue track, where they will actually do a voiceover that guides them through the arrangement. So they've got a voice that they can listen to as they're playing along that would guide them through so they know what they need to do. Even if they are able to read a drum chart or a piano chart or whatever it is that they're playing, having a voice in your ear sometimes can be helpful to cue you as to what's coming up and being prepared for it, or a particular groove or a particular pattern that you are playing that's about to come up, so that you can kind of prepare yourself for playing that. That can be really helpful. Some people find that really off-putting. There are churches actually that work exactly like that, where they have a pre-recorded voice track that is a cue track that goes along with the click track and tells all the band members in their in-ears what section is coming up next. I know, it's weird. I could not work like that in a church environment. I've tried. Trust me, I've played in churches where they do that, and I found it incredibly distracting, to be honest. But it is one of the ways in which some churches, they like to do things like that to make their music really, really slick. Mention how to use the bar offset to renumber. Yes, you can use the bar offset as well. Bar offset is very cool. I will show that very, very shortly. Let's see. Neil says, 20 minutes into the show already. My bike ride took longer than I'd anticipated. Neil, I'm glad you're here, buddy. Welcome. And don't worry about being a wee bit late. This is not school, so you don't get a black mark for attendance. And I'm not going to send you to the head teacher, so don't worry about that. Jay says, folks, we got 18 people and 11 likes. Let's get them likes up. Thank you very much. Yes, we got 19 and 14, so let's get 19, please. I'd appreciate that very much. Chris says, in Sphere Workspaces, there is an option of download and share in community. Would this be a no-no for the Halloween contest? I would prefer not. I would prefer if you kind of wait until the contest is over before you start sharing your entries, because I don't want to I don't want to accidentally stumble across your piece and accidentally hear it, because I don't want my judgment impaired. So yeah, please hold on to your entries until the contest is over and the winners have been announced, and then by all means upload away. I hope that comes across right. I don't want to be a pain in the arse about it, but I don't want to accidentally stumble across your piece. That's what I'm trying to avoid. Because I want to make sure that I don't hear it. I don't even hear half of a eighth note or half of a 30-second note of your pieces, because I want to hear them fresh when we are adjudicating, so that I'm not coming in with any preconceptions about what your pieces are going to be like. So that's what I want, if you don't mind. So it would just make it easier for me. I don't know about Rich. I don't know how he feels about that, but certainly for me, it would make it easier for me. So please don't share your Halloween pieces until after the contest. I would prefer that. It's not that that's a rule or anything. It's just for me. It's for my sake more than anything else. Because I don't want to start kind of critiquing before the contest is over. Because then, my judgment is already impaired and I'm already biased, and I don't want that. But that's a good question. Neil says, did it make you swear in church? No, nothing makes me swear in church. I'm pretty good about that. I might swear like a wee trooper outside of church, and I don't swear on my show if I can avoid it. I might mildly swear, like I might use the word shit every now and then, but I try and avoid using F-bombs and stuff like that, because F-bombs can lead to warnings and stuff like that from YouTube, and I don't want those particularly. Alrighty. So, bar offset. Bar offset is very cool as well. So, if we went back to our song, and we look at this. So now our song, as you can see, now starts at bar 2. I don't want that. I want to try and remember how to offset bar. There we go. Offset bar to cursor. There we go. Bingo. So now you can see that the start marker has automatically placed itself on bar 1. In this case, we don't want that, because if I export this, our nice little intro pickup is not going to be there. But if I was to loop this, I would want the loop zone there, so that it doesn't kind of like go to this little pickup every time we finish. So, yeah, that's kind of what I would do. So now our song actually starts on bar 1. And the way you get there is you put your cursor on the beginning. So if I just do that again, let's do Control Z. Oh, I undid too much there. Let's go back to Edit, History. Okay. Looks like once it looks like once you've done the offset, it doesn't offset anymore. Yeah, that's strange, that. So once you've done the offset to cursor, you cannot undo it. It looks like it doesn't appear in the history, which is interesting. I thought that it would, but it doesn't. Yeah. So, unfortunately, I cannot now actually show you how to do that again. But basically, you put, let's say this is bar 2. You put the cursor on bar 2, you right click, and then you go set bar offset to cursor. Now, this only does a 1 bar offset. It doesn't give you the option to offset by a certain number of bars. This would be where your insert silence in loop would be useful, or your edit insert silence would be useful. And as you can see here, we can also insert a secondary ruler if we wanted to. which, like I said, is useful for if you're doing things to pictures. So there we go. We have inserted a secondary ruler. So we've got one in bars and beats, and then the top one in seconds. So this is useful for film and doing stuff to a very, very specific time. So yeah, that's a great question. And a great suggestion, actually. Let's see. Danny Taylor says, headed to the principal to get my tardy slip. Oh, it's in the bar. It's in the song setup. So if I wanted to undo it, I could go into song setup, general, timeline. There we go. Yeah. So I could now change this. Because the song now starts on bar 2. So I could revert this to bar 1, or I could set this to 0. So if I wanted to revert this, I could just set this to 0. But I think you've seen me do it. Offset is part of the song setup. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Thank you for reminding me, though. I appreciate that. I often forget where these things are sometimes. You weren't seeing a thing there. Yes, so it is in the song setup. So you go to song setup, general, and there is the bar offset. So you can either do it in the timeline ruler, like I showed you there, or you can do it here. You can set this to -1, or you could set this to -2 if you wanted to. It looks like you could change that to any value you want, which is useful. But if you do it from the timeline, I think it only does an offset of 1 bar, but you can change this to whatever value you want by the look of it, which is very handy. You can also change the frame rate here. This is set to 24 frames per second, but if you're working to a specific video frame rate, you can change that here as well if you need to. But I'm going to leave that as is. Neil says Joe Gilder did a video on templates. I know the main difference between saving a song and saving a template is that template shows up in the new song setup list. So my question is, when saving a template, what data /settings/info, if anything, does not get saved in the template that does get saved in a saved song? Essentially, templates and songs are fundamentally the same thing. So if you create a template that has audio in it from a song, let's say you create a song like this one, and you decide that you want to use this as a template. So if you did save as template like this, when I save this as a template, everything that is in this song is now going to be a template. So that means even if I delete all the data that is here in the song, so all of the MIDI events, all of the audio events, and all of this stuff, if I delete all of that, it is still going to appear over here in the pool. Okay? But if I want to scrub this to use this as a template, you can do. You can basically open the song, delete all the events here, delete everything from the pool, and now you have a song that has these instruments and these audio tracks already created with their plugins and everything there. You just don't want the audio data and you don't want what's in the pool. Why do I say that? Because you don't want, if you create a new song, you don't want it to be pulling data from the source song that you used to create the template. Same if you create a brand new song and you did it that way. So let's go back over here and let's do a new song. So if I do a new song and we say blank song, and having done that, let's say what we want is we want a bunch of bus channels, and that's all we want. We don't want anything else. So I want to add some bus channels. So I'm going to add bus 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've now created 4 bus channels. Okay. And let's say I want these to be, I want that one to be vocals. I want this to be keys. Let's put the caps lock on. Keys. Guitars. Try not to press the shift key. Guitars. And then this one. Drums. Press the damn shift key again. So now I've got my buses. Now I am in Scotland, which is in the UK, and those are red. So now I've got all of these set up. They are already routed to the main. They are ready to go. So if I want to, I can now start to create over here some tracks. And we'll call this, we'll turn off the caps lock. Vocals. And let's say we're doing 2 vocals. So let's just do 2 of those. All right. Now, that's weird. This has not got a send on it. What's going on here? There we go. There we go. Fixed. All right. So first of all, these should be yellow because vocals are yellow for me. So we'll go grab that color there. And then what we'll do is we will route both of these to the Vox bus. And let's say I carry on and I do this for everything else. So I set up my keys, I set up my guitars, I set up all my drums and everything else. So now I've got everything I need for my song, for my template. What I can now do is I can go File, and I can go Save as Template. I can call this band mixing. Band mixing template. All right, and then we go OK. And then what we do is we go and we close this, and we don't want to save it. All right, and I'm going to keep that open because this one I'm going to need at the end of the show. So let's go and do a new song, and we'll use our band mixing template, and we'll go OK. And bingo. Now we've got all of our template. We've got our vocal channels. They're already routed to the main, to the Vox bus, and then those are going to the main. So I've got this set up how I want it. So if I had set up everything else in this, it would all show up as well, complete with plugins. So if I saved this with Pro EQ and compressor on both of my vocal channels and whatever else I want to do in my bus processing that I know I use all the time, including if I had a specific Pro EQ preset that I know that I use on vocals all the time, I can save that into the template. And when I create a new song with that template, those plugins and their presets will be there, complete with reverbs, delays, whatever I want, whatever I need. Okay, so to demonstrate with sends, let's say I want room reverb on my vocal bus because I know I'm going to use it, and I'm going to use a specific default. I'm going to use the concert hall. So I want that, but I also want the analog delay because I like a bit of delay on my vocal as well. So let's go and grab that. And I know I like a little bit of the old slapback. And we've got that set up. So now I'm happy with this. So I've now got, these are the things that I know I'm going to use. And by the way, for those of you that don't know, effects channels should be white, or at least that's how I have them set up. All right, and that makes sure that I can see them. So now that I've set all of this up, I've got my specific reverb, my specific delay set up. What I can do now is I can go to File, I can go Save as Template, and I can go Replace Existing. And then I can find my band mixing template, and I can go Done. And it's done, just like that. And then what I can do is I can close this, and I can go Nope. And then I can go back over here, New Song, Band Mixing Template. And now we can see my concert hall reverb is there. My analog delay slapback is there. So I've got everything I want. And as John correctly points out, you can also set up all of the VSTs with their instruments. So you can have like a full orchestra, full band template, complete with virtual instruments and effects, sends, and everything that you could possibly want. So that basically when you create a new song, all of that stuff loads in. Now, I know people that compose for TV and film, they will have as many as 1,700 channels of audio, but they also have maybe as many virtual instruments that they load in, but they load them in disabled. So they've gone ahead, created their template, they've created all of the instruments, the VST instruments, they've set the presets and everything that they need with those VST instruments, and then they disable them all. Why do they do that? Because if you load the template with the VSTi, the virtual instruments, disabled, it takes a hell of a lot less time to load because you're not actually loading the preset. That won't load until you turn it on. And then you only turn on what you need in that particular template. And then you can hide anything that you aren't actually using for a particular piece. So this is a really, really smart and sophisticated way to use Studio One. You can have loads of templates for different things. So you can have this band template. You could have an orchestral template. You could have something that you use for EDM. So you've got specific EDM and specific hardware synthesizers that you already have as external hardware synthesizers. You can have them instantiated in your song, ready to go. So all of that stuff, including panning. So if you know you're going to be panning out guitars left and right, all that panning will be saved. All your virtual instruments, all your effects sends, all of those will be set up, including inserts as well. So if you want to give yourself a head start when it comes to mixing, you can set up, a fat channel on every channel if you want, with the 1176 and maybe the Pultec style EQ and all of that set up on your song already. So when you create a new song because you've got some new stems that you're going to mix for somebody, you've got all of those things ready to go. And all you have to do is just drag in the stems and make sure that they go on the correct track that you've already got set up. It does mean that you may be dragging them in one at a time rather than dragging all of them in and then kind of shifting things around, which is the long way around of doing things. I just basically drag and drop and make sure each stem goes to its correct track in the arranger view. And then, obviously they're going to be assigned therefore to the correct channel in the mixer automatically. So that is kind of how I would set up a template if I was doing one from scratch. And like I said, if you wanted, as time goes by, maybe your templates evolve. I know mine have evolved quite a bit. So I have a podcasting template that I use because I do my church's sermons. And so I have a template that has everything I need in there. It has the DS, it has the Pro, it has a couple of instances of the Pro EQ. It has RX on there for denoise. All of those things are already preset, ready to go. And I have them set to specific values. And then whenever I get the sermon audio from my church, I just drag and drop it straight into the track, and most of the time I don't need to do anything else because I've done this so many times with Church's audio. I know those microphones really well. And so for the most part, I'm maybe either turning it up or I'm turning it down a little bit, the actual audio event, because, different people run sound on different Sundays. So they may have recorded the signal a little too quiet or a little too hot. No problem. But I'm not fundamentally doing anything with the EQ or the compression or the limiting or anything else. Sometimes I do have to, because sometimes the audio doesn't sound very good sometimes, and sometimes I have to change things. But for the most part, I don't have to, and that's why I created that little template, because it means I can do the podcast in about 4 minutes. Even on something that's like, 40 minutes long, all I'm doing then is I'm not worrying about processing the sound. I'm worrying about editing it to make sure I cut out things like somebody coughing or a baby crying at a certain point, or whatever it might be that I think is extraneous and is going to be distracting from the preaching. Then I can cut those things out, and I can also create a nice start and a nice ending for the audio. And then it's ready to go up on the church website, and it sounds fantastic. And it sounds broadcast worthy. So I have a template that does that. And basically all the plugins that I need with their presets that I have created are already set and ready to go. Complete with the high pass filter, the notch filter around about 200, because I know there's a big build up in our church auditorium of about 200, and I cut out some 420, and I give a nice little bump around 5K, and then I give it some air around about 12K. So I have my Pro EQ doing that already, and I'm not having to do it every single time. It's preset, it's made, it's instantiated in the template, it's done. So all I'm having to do is just get the audio in, and I'm already, half a mile down the road without really doing anything. So this is why templates are really, really powerful. I know you can have templates in other DAWs, and they work pretty well. The ones you have in Studio One, I think, are easier, better, more flexible, easier to set up. So that's a great question. Templates, they're really, really cool. Really, really cool indeed. So I hope that helps answer that question. Let's go back over to the chat. Oops, there we go. I clicked on the wrong thing. Let's see. I'm just going to catch up. Yep, that makes sense, because a person may want a plain rhythm track automatically there to use to always begin recording with. Yes, definitely. So if you want to do that, if you have like a tambourine track and you've got like a loop of 4 bars of tambourine, for example, or 4 bars of shaker that's going to be, or a drum loop that is going to be easy for whomever you are recording with to play along to, rather than a click track, you can have that set up. And if you have it set up on time stretch as well, it means that whatever tempo you're recording at, that shaker is going to be at the right tempo, always. So even if you're not using the metronome and you're using the shaker track, it's always going to be correct to the grid. So that's definitely a good thing that you can use for recording. For those that don't want to use a click track, they don't want to use the metronome. By the way, you can change the sounds of the metronome. Instead of the ones that are default, there's a folder in Studio One. I will show that, maybe because we've only got like 7 minutes left. Maybe another time, maybe on next week's show, I'll show you how you can change the sounds. You can change the sounds to whatever you want them to be. You could have like a cockerel on the downbeat, and you could have a dog barking on beats 2, 3, and 4. If you want, you can have any sound that your heart desires. It depends upon what you want. If you prefer that rather than it going dink, 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 and most people don't like that. Most people don't get into the groove of being creative, listening to dink, 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 dink. No. So you could change it. You can change it to, something that sounds a little bit more interesting. So if you wanted to, you could have a kick drum on beat 1, and you could have like a rim tap for beats 2, 3, and 4, and you could have like a hi-hat on the upbeats, the ands, if you wanted to. And that, by the way, would create a little drum groove without you having to create a drum groove. So you can try that if you want to. Yeah, the metronome is fun to mess around with, creating different sounds. I've done different things. I've actually used it to play pranks on people as well. So they're expecting the kind of classic metronome sound count off, and they get, entertaining words in their ears instead. And I do that just for fun, just to lighten the mood. Let's see, what else do we have here? Yeah, delete all the audio data. Yes, clear out the pool. So if you want to use a regular song that this is kind of how I mix. This is a complete finished mix, and I'm using these plugins all the time. You can zero all of those plugins out, and then you can clear the audio out from the pool, from the tracks, and then you could save that as a template, and then you'd have everything set up. Your EQ, your compression, your reverbs, delays, your bus routing, your parallel compression, bus routing. You can have all of that all set up. So yeah, maybe next week we will do different sounds for the metronome, because you can do that and it's fun to do. Let's see. Neil says that was very thorough. So saving a template saves exactly the same things as saving a song. The only difference being how they are opened. New song, list of templates. Correct. That is absolutely correct. Yeah. They are. A template is essentially a song. So it has everything that a song has. It's just that when you create a new song, you can open it using that song as a framework, as a template. So yeah, essentially they are songs. It's just a very, very neat way of doing it. So pretty much everything that you could possibly want in a regular song that you know that you're going to be using regularly, I can't speak, regularly, then you can certainly do that. So we got 24 people watching. We got 20 likes. I need 4 more people to hit that like button, please. Down there. Hit that like button, please. If you're not subscribed, please do so. Do it now. I would appreciate it. And I'm getting tired, as you can tell, because I'm starting to sound a lot more Scottish than I normally do. Because actually, I'll let you all in on a wee secret. And that is, when I first started doing videos on my YouTube channel, I ran across a situation where people couldn't actually understand what I was saying. And I found that through the YouTube analytics, what they were doing was they were actually using the closed caption system, but they were using it for English. I was just like, oh. A lot of people are using the captions for English because they don't understand what I'm saying, even though I'm speaking English. I'm not speaking Scots. And so this was like early on. This is like, probably 9.5 years ago, nearly 10 years ago. And so I thought, okay, I'd better kind of dial down the accent a little bit. And so I have tried very hard to do that over the last sort of 10, 11 years of doing this. And it's actually harder work than you think to dial back my accent and make it sound a little bit more English. But I do try to do that because I know that I have a lot of my subscribers, a lot of the people watching are from different parts of the world. So maybe you're from Australia, New Zealand, maybe you're from the Philippines, maybe you're from a language, a country where English is not the first language, and so you're listening to me in English and you're having to kind of translate it in your brain into your own language so that you can understand it and stuff like that. I don't want to make it hard for you to have to do that, so I try and speak more slowly. I try and speak more clearly so that you guys can understand. So, but yes, it is tricky. It requires quite a bit of concentration to do it, but I do try. Secret Squirrel said something and then retracted it. It's okay. I'm not offended. It's fine. Neil says, I also have made a few templates. Just wanted to know if templates save all of the same stuff as in a song, and the answer is yes, it most certainly is. So the YouTube algorithm essentially conditioned you to speak English. Lol. I speak English anyway. I don't do my videos and things in Scots. I could if I wanted to, but I would have a really, really, really tiny audience if I did that. Keith says, I have done a reverse Mel Gibson. Well, Mel Gibson couldn't do a Scottish accent if he feckin' tried, and that's me sanitizing the word that I really want to use. Yeah, he couldn't do a Scottish accent if he tried. So, so I will try to not take that as an insult. Neil says, I'm in Canada, which is where Keith is, by the way. Keith is also in Canada. That's awesome. And I have family in Canada. In fact, my great grandfather, he played football for Liverpool at the turn of the 20th century, the start of the 20th century. He played football for Liverpool. He is in the Liverpool Football Club Hall of Fame. When he retired, he relocated to Canada, and I believe he was in the Toronto area for most of his life after football. And what he did there, he was involved in expanding football, soccer, in Canada, and he did a lot for soccer in Canada. And he spent his last years of his life in Vancouver, which is where he died, and he is buried over there. And from what I can gather, he made quite a name for himself in Canadian soccer. As quite the major influence. So I do have a strong Canadian connection, of which I'm very proud, and there are an awful lot of Scots that are in Canada. So much so that there are parts of Canada which have that are named after places in Scotland. So yes, Billy is busy today. He would normally do an after show Zoom. So yes, there will be no Zoom hosted by Billy, because he is definitely otherwise occupied for a very, very good reason. And, so Billy, if you're catching this and you're watching the replay, I hope you had a wonderful day. And, please do pass on, all of my love and best wishes to your son on his wedding day. So let's see. Rock Tease says, cheers again, Jonny. Love your work. Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate it. All right, so we are done and dusted for another Sunday Night Live. The October Halloween challenge, for 2024 is very much underway. So if you have not joined it and you are interested in being part of it, there will be, we will repeat the details again on Wednesday on the Songwriting Simplified show. So please come back for that, 6 p.m. Central Time on Wednesday. Songwriting questions, arranging questions. We can talk about the Halloween songwriting contest a wee bit as well. Hopefully Rich Cresswell will be available and he will answer questions in the chat as well. But other than that, folks, I will see yous all on Wednesday. And the other thing I will finish up with here is that October 9th is coming up fast. There are two big events that are happening on October 9th. The first, which is the most important by far, is the launch of Studio One 7. That is happening on October 9th. The second, which is slightly less important, is my birthday. I will be 49. So we will be doing a show a very special live stream show at 6 p.m. Central on October 9th, where we will go through all things Studio One 7, and we will be celebrating my birthday at the same time. There will be a link to my PayPal if you wish to send me a birthday gift, if that's your thing, and if that's what you would like to do. The link will be there. But otherwise, folks, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for your questions. And I will see you all on Wednesday. Take it easy, everybody. Good night. Oh, hang on. I forgot about the intro to that.